that is what you're going to use to figure out everything else. Until it's not about, oh, the script said da 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 da, you go over here, you go over here, let's shoot it. No. You have to stop, do the work, and say, this scene we're going to play, what is it hanging on? As soon as you find it, trust me, everything else begins to fall in place. For script writers, you are the ones that give the directors, the actors, and all of that stuff. You are the ones that make these things come alive, because it just flows from your head onto the page. And you've learned quite a bit in these last few weeks. It's all about storytelling. It's all about storytelling. I've said it over and over. It's the thing. What is this story about? What are we trying to do here? Who has something, lost it, tries to find it? Why? What are the obstacles? And did they end up finding it, or did they end up losing it? End of story. Every film, every story has to have that. You see that you start with somebody having something, they lose that thing, they spend the rest of the film trying to get it back. A lot of stuff gets in the way. You see that thing overcomes them, or they overcome the stuff. End of story. So before you start writing your 300 pages of screenplay, at the time you have that first one page, make sure you figure that out. You see that person didn't have anything at the beginning, and then as you start the film, they get the thing, then they spend the rest of the film trying to protect that which they got. The question then is, did they end up losing it, or did they succeed in protecting it? It could be love, it could be physical object, it could be whatever, it could be their children, it could be their home, it could be their career, it could be the world. That's what it's about. It's basic as that. So before you start going into 300 pages, that first page that you've written that summarizes your story, you have to figure that out right there. Who has what? What is that what? When do they lose it? What is threatening it? When do they get it back? Do they get it back? End of story. You piece that up right there. You grab that first piece, you write it. Second part of it, you write it. Third part, you write it. You got a screenplay. The other things we can teach you, the mechanics of how to make things alive. Do this, do that, do that. That's understanding. Those are basic fundamentals. And these are the things that you've studied. These are the things that we're here to begin to excite you about. More information is available to you at Google University, like somebody called it. It's all there. The days are over when you had to have all the $1 million to do these things. So it's not a level playing field. In those days when only the white folks had cameras, they were able to tell their own stories, and then they were able to bring the cameras here and tell our own stories. And that's how they made up Tarzan. That's how they made up all the stupid images of Africa. But those days are over now. We can now learn. We can now tell our own stories. Get your own YouTube channel, for God's sake. Use your cell phones and tell your own stories and put it out there to the world. Malawi's story has to be told. It's waiting to be told. Shemu is not the only one that's going to do it. Awonga is not the only one that's not going to do it. He's going to do it. The idea is to have you guys bring Malawi's story. Bring your own voice. Add your voice to the global conversation. You must do that. Because I bet you, for as many people that asked me if I could take some medicine to go give those dying kids because I was coming to Malawi, that means your story is not being told. Because people still see Africa that way. And you cannot deny the world of your voice, of your story. You cannot afford to do that. And that's why we are doing this. So you must tell your story. You must. You owe it to your children and your children's children. Because if 10 years from now, 15 years from now, somebody's coming from the United States and the person is still being asked that same question, then we failed. You failed. So the idea is for you to rise and tell Malawi's story. and let folks know that we are not all jumping from tree to tree. But that's the thing, because they have told our story for centuries. But we can't now wake up. We had an excuse because we didn't have the equipment. We had an excuse because we didn't have the knowledge. But now the knowledge is everywhere. We had the excuse before because even if we did it, Warner Brothers was not going to show it. But you don't need them anymore. You have YouTube. You can get 1 million hits right here. So there are no excuses anymore. We must then become part of the global conversation. We must then put our voice out there. Let folks know who we are. Let folks know that we got a voice. Whatever your issue is, whatever you want to do, you want to host a talk show, shoot it in your living room. Use your cell phone and do it. It might be about youth issues in Blantyre. You bring a couple of people, you ask them questions, you cut it. You don't even have to do full editing. You just, if you're careful, if you calibrate carefully, you know when to shoot, stop. That's a cut. You move, you tell the person start. You're not recording yet. They start talking. You say, okay, that's the rehearsal. Now, when I do this, you need to start. You can actually carefully calibrate a very interesting conversation with your cell phone by starting recording, stopping recording, and it will look like you even edited it. It might not be most professionally done, but that's good enough. You put it on YouTube. You have your channel, have your program going on YouTube. Once a week, people are tuning in to know what else. Maybe it's news from Blantyre by you. Maybe it's analyzing football. Maybe it's netball, whatever it is, or movies in Blantyre. Doesn't matter. Put it out there. Let folks know that you're here. The world is waiting to hear from Malawi. They've told our stories for far too long. But you now have a way of letting folks know who you are. And finally, you have to package yourself. If you're a director, you don't have to always wait until that film gets ready to be made. With the tools you've learned here, and hopefully with the more that you're going to learn on your own, you can begin to figure out how you can make a buck or two. If you're a director, print a business card, put your name there, put director, put your phone number, put your cell phone on it. When you run into people, you give it to them. That's who you are. If that's really who you want to be, then become. If you're an actress, get a photo done. It doesn't have to be professionally done. But get a picture, put it on a business card, put your name, put actress, put your phone number, put an email address on it. When you run into somebody, they give you their business card, you give it to them yours. They look at, oh, you're an actor. You never know what comes out of that. And even if nothing does come out of that, the fact is you're now proud. You've become that which you want to be. That's the only way to do it. That's the business of show business. You can't sit around. If you're a director, you can be hired and get paid as a director. You don't have to always wait until you make that movie. A company might be trying to shoot an advert. They're looking for directors. And you happen to have given your business card to somebody. They might call you. And yes, you might feel, oh, I don't think I can do it. You have colleagues here. You have your trainers. You call them. And say, there's a gig that we might get. They called me. I don't know what to do. The one guy will jump up and say, sure, let's go get that gig. Why not? Then this whole idea of trying to insulate every single country of the African continent from the other countries so that they can create a sense of this unity, if you will. And that was why the first set of folks that began to fight for African liberation were doing what they call Pan-Africanism. Because they wanted to crush these borders, they wanted Africans to begin to see themselves as Africans and not just the Nigerians, the Malawians, the Zimbabweans, and all of that stuff, because that created this sense, like you're saying, that if you're in Malawi, you know nothing about your neighbors, you know nothing about the other African countries. And that was the intent. That you finished secondary school, they will fly you straight to the UK, and then you come back to Malawi. And if you look at the way the airline system, the air transportation system, except in the past decade or so, and I would venture maybe the past 15 years, up till now, travel between African countries is more difficult than travel from an African country to an European country. It wasn't by accident.
Even the railway system.
Yeah.